Coverage of the State of the Island address.
That's coming up next.
This program lineup is brought to you by Vision Express.
KUAM TV8, first on Guam.
KUAM News, winner of the 2022 Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Culture Club.
The KUAM Care Force and St. Baldrick's Foundation present the return of the Great Shave-a-thon on Saturday, March 18th. We'll be shaving heads to build hope, awareness, and to raise funds in the fight against childhood cancer from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Guam Premier Outlets in Tamuning. Please gather friends, family, classmates, co-workers, or even total strangers as you show your support to end childhood cancer and brave the shave with us this year. All proceeds raised will benefit the St. Baldrick's Foundation, as well as our local beneficiary, the Edward M. Calvo Cancer Foundation. Special thanks to GPO and the GCC Cosmetology Program. Join us on Saturday, March 18th from 10 to 1. Sign up to be a shavee or just show your support in the fight against childhood cancer. For more information, visit stbaldricks.org/events/Guam.
State of the Island Address is made possible in partnership with PBS Guam.
Welcome to KUAM News special coverage of the Governor's 2023 State of the Island address. I'm Nick Delgado.
And I'm Destiny Cruz. We are bringing you live coverage tonight in partnership with PBS Guam. Tonight, Governor Leon Guerrero set to address the people here in the territory. We have a rundown of what the Magahaga has in store.
And after days of the governor rehearsing for this moment, no doubt the bombshell news that led the day came out of the Legislative Speaker's office. Speaker Therese Terlahi revealing that some of her Democratic colleagues had met with the governor Tuesday afternoon at Adelup, discussing a military lease with GovGuam for that property at Eagles Field in Manila to be used as a medical complex. That's something the governor has been pushing now for some time, and throughout her term in governorship. The meeting, including Joint Region Marianas Commander Rear Admiral Benjamin Nicholson. He took questions from senators we're hearing that attended that
That's
meeting.
right. That's right. While the speaker shared her concern for what she feels is a secret deal and lack of transparency, the governor clapping back, saying the speaker stands in the way of improved health care for all. Leon Guerrero adding Speaker Terlahi has given false hope to the original landowners of that property, which is currently federally owned. The governor calling the speaker's move, quote, paranoid politics, adding the military has agreed to leave over 112 acres to GovGuam at no cost. This despite the speaker claiming the deal includes GovGuam obligating in-kind hospital services to military personnel and their families as part of the exchange. There's just no way the governor is going to shy away from including this controversial topic in tonight's address.
Yeah, no doubt she is not. We were able to get a copy of the governor's State of the Island address, which has been embargoed until after she delivers it. The governor and the first gentleman, Jeff Cook, just entering the session hall just as we were coming on the air desk, and now everyone, the crowd there, cheering and welcoming her, to ready to hear what she has to say. But we have a full rundown again of what she has to say. Let's see our Pete Anderson. Any feed yet? While we wait for that feed with PBS Guam, we want to thank our partners, of course, for providing us this service and making sure that we bring you the full and complete coverage of the governor's State of the Island address. Now, Des, we did go through some of the speech
That's
here
right.
Before she gets started here. What were some of the things that came out at you?
Well, definitely at the top is the controversial medical complex, and she did say that she will plan to sign the lease. I thought that was very interesting, and she did mention in the speech that was embargoed that she did speak with ancestral landowners, so I thought that was definitely interesting, and I am looking forward to seeing her address tonight.
Yeah, and right now it looks like they're going through some of the motions throughout to get into the part of the speech. They have the National Guard members there walking and making their way in there. Of course, after that, they have the performers, the usual, the prayer and the ceremony. But like you said, the governor will discuss that medical complex, the proposal there today. I want to bring up, not that we can show you on your screen at this time, but just to let you know, we also received, what we're seeing is the actual lease from the Department of the Navy. The general purpose out lease is what we're looking at. It looks like a multi-page document. Of course, we still have yet to review it, but just off top, this looks like this includes, of course, the government of Guam, the Department of Land Management, the military, the federal government, of course, because what the controversy has been about, and we told you over in primetime, and Nestle Contra reported it, was that this property owned by the military, right? But they can't give it back over to the original landowners. Those are the people that are fighting to get it back. Those are the individuals that, of course, want to get their property back. But the governor's saying that there's nothing that they can do about it.
That's right.
And so right now we have the lease, and we'll, of course, dissect that to see what we can get to you. We hear that we have the feed now from our partners at PBS Guam of the Governor's State of the Island Address now underway. Let's go to that now in progress.
Call upon Ms. Fantasia Rioja to lead in the singing of the national anthem and the Guam hymn.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still
recitation of Inifresi, will Senator Paris kindly lead us?
Inifresi, ginini mastaculo, gi hinisoko, imastaculum, gi corazonhu, zenimas figo, nanina senyahu, hu ofressen maisadu, parabayu protehi, zenhu defendi, I hinengi, I cultura, linguahi, I airi, I hanam zenitano tomorrow. Ni renshaku deretsu ginina zuustata, esti hu afitma gihilo I Biblia, zeni benderahu I benderen guahan.
Please remain standing for a benediction by Gumama Higa. Please remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Father Mike Chrysostomo.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, we hear from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Heavenly Father, this evening we give you glory and praise for all the blessings you bestow on our people. We pray for our governor and all in authority. Guide them in their decisions, inspire them in their thoughts, and comfort them in their sorrows. Loving God, help us build a community that as we serve you and one another with patience and kindness, teach us always to focus our attention on loving you and others and not be irritable or resentful. Give us courage and strength to bear all things and to rejoice always in the truth. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please be seated. Call upon the Honorable Lourdes A. Leon Guerrero, Imagahagan, Guahan, to present the State of the Island Address.
Buenas noches. Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, Madam Speaker Therese Terlai, Chief Justice Robert Torres, Delegate Jim Moylan, members of the Diplomatic Corps, senators of the 37th Guam Legislature, President of the Mayor's Council, Jesse Alec, Admiral Nicholson, mayors and vice mayors, and my first gentleman, Jeff Cook. Distinguished guests, family, friends, and to all those listening at home or online. Tonight, I come before you as your first democratically elected woman governor of Guam to address the members of the Chamber for the evenings like this are a little more familiar to me. We bring the stories of each of us here as diverse as Guam itself. Whether your journey to this hall began as a teacher or a talk show host, if you built a small business or captained a boat at sea, whether you argued points of law, served in uniform, saved lives as a fireman, or safeguard our environment as the youngest administrator in the history of the Guam Environmental Protection Agency, each of us has been called to service. Each of us shares a sacred oath, and each of us will be judged by those who serve in these halls long after we have gone. 4 years ago, I came here confident that if we work together, if we rose above the vicious score-keeping of everyday politics, then we could solve old problems, do big things, and renew the promise of our great island. This hope, our hope, is rooted in the firm resilience of our people, forged in the knowledge that in times of great challenge, when our backs are squarely against the wall, there is no Republican Guam or Democrat Guam, there is simply the people of Guam. I believe, as President Lincoln did, that the role of government is to do for our people what needs to be done, that which no one person can do by themselves. One person alone can't educate our children. One person alone can't rebuild our roads and bridges, combat the terror of drug addiction, create immediate solutions and long-term plans that retool our economy, reduce crime, or retrain our workforce to meet the demands of an ever-changing world. These tasks will not be accomplished by an individual, by one administration, or by one chamber. They are the work of one community coming together for the common good. This work began by getting our financial house in order. After nearly 2 generations of a government in deficit, my administration has delivered revenues that exceed expenditures every year that we have been in office. We flatlined our debt, increased our credit rating, vendor payables are on time, and cash allotments to our public schools, the Guam Community College, and the University of Guam are paid in full. We've also done more to leverage federal grant dollars available to us. Thanks to the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and the Guam State Clearinghouse, according to the Federal Bureau of Economic Analysis, we acquired and expended $166 million more in federal grant funds for fiscal year 22 than in fiscal year 21. This excludes federal funds we receive for the pandemic response, SNAP, and Medicaid. And the release of tax refunds is now so timely and predictable that it barely makes the news. Despite the enduring pessimism of some public officials, our economy is recovering. Tourism is rebounding. Our government finances are strong, and those who predicted Guam's demise are finding out that just isn't so. These tremendous accomplishments are the result of my administration's strong fiscal discipline and a government that has worked to become more reliable every day and the strength of our people. Madam Speaker, sustained by the work of the last 4 years and focused on our plan for the future, tonight I am pleased to report that Guam is building a new era of prosperity. I know that our work will often be met by a cadre of challenges. There is too much inflation in our stores and supermarkets, too little compassion for our neighbor, too much meanness in our politics, too many threats to our safety and way of life. But Josh and I are not sitting idle. Consider these facts. Unemployment dropped from 7.2% to 4% in the last 12 months. More than 3,000 people have returned to work over the same period. Skilled apprenticeships are on track to more than double this year. And despite a dedicated chorus of naysayers, our efforts also help provide vouchers for the families of over 1,200 children to pay for the cost of childcare when they needed it most. Hundreds more working-class families are now eligible for child care block grants because we increased the program income thresholds for the first time since the 1990s. Together, we have planted the seeds of a new and diversified economy, laying the initial groundwork for additive manufacturing and transshipment, telecom, and modern sustainable aquaculture. While all of this is meaningful, nothing secures the blessings of prosperity or protects against the rising cost of living like a good-paying job. Tonight, I'm reminded of a story I heard a little while ago. A prominent lawyer calls a plumber to fix a leak in his shower. After about 25 minutes, the plumber hands him a bill for $200. Shocked, the lawyer says, "I am a famous trial lawyer, and even I don't make that kind of money for 25 minutes of work." The plumber replies, "I'm not surprised. I didn't make this kind of money when I was a lawyer either." My first gentleman, Jeff, tells me he's considering it as a second career. From plumbers to carpenters, electricians to HVAC specialists, automotive mechanics and computer programmers, social workers, counselors, regulatory agents, budget analysts, accountants, and controllers, the jobs of a new and prosperous Guam are waiting for you to fill them. From GCC to Department of Labor, we are aggressively deploying the tools to train those willing to work for a better life. Yet, tourism has always been the bedrock of our economy. This is why we are glad to note that visitor arrival numbers are currently beating our quarterly expectations. And we anticipate even stronger arrivals this summer with the return of visitors from Japan. But as tourism markets rebuild around the world, we can acknowledge full recovery will take time and no one is there yet. This is why I have committed additional support for a new $20 million round of the Local Employers Assistance Program, LEAP, as proposed by Senator Joe San Agustin. This investment will help vulnerable businesses protect jobs, stay open, and be ready. And gainful employment, or the skills needed to earn it, are still within our grasp. To date, more than 2,000 of our relatives, our friends and neighbors have participated in the Guam Regional Apprenticeship Programs. To those of you watching, listening, and looking for an opportunity, you can too. Across the nation, contractors and business entities from every state are harnessing the skills and resources of our people to ensure their economic well-being for ourselves. Doing this requires that we accept an old truth. Government can have your back along the path to shared prosperity, but everyone must walk that path for themselves. Recognizing this fact, the embers of new entrepreneurship are becoming the flashpoint of our economic future. Now, a passion project born at a kitchen table can become the business that generates income for your family. Jewelry and fashion designers, candle makers, home bakers, and other Guam-branded goods are being made right here at home. Through Guam unique merchandise and art, we're building a stronger community of local entrepreneurs and empowering them with the tools, training, and networks to develop these ideas into sustainable business models. Last year alone, we licensed 90 home-based businesses, and we awarded hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants and microcredits. Many of our GUMA grads became vendors in spaces like DFS Galleria and some are working towards exporting their goods and services. Our economy is also learning that going green can help keep our business in the black. Sustainability is more than just a buzzword for my administration. Our Guam Green Growth, or G3 efforts, championed by the Lieutenant Governor and Dr. Austin Shelton from UOG's Center for Island Sustainability, are moving us forward not just toward diversification, but toward a more circular economy. Reuse, reduce, and recycle is now becoming a mantra among our small business community. I urge each of you to visit UOG's Circular Economy Maker Space and Innovation Hub at the Chamorro Village. See for yourselves how laser cutters, CNC routers, and 3D printers can transform our waste products into marketable items. Bottom line, if you have the dream and the drive, we will invest in you. We must also take full advantage of the nearly $11 billion investment that the Department of Defense is bringing to Guam to support the relocation of U.S. Marines from Okinawa to our island. Tonight, I propose a fundamental shift in the way we repair our public schools, invest in our classrooms, and keep our streets safe. This is what I ask. 1, keep our business privilege tax at 5%. 2, protect the existing appropriations to DOE, GPD, and Guam Behavioral Health. 3, target the continued surpluses that we've delivered in each of the last 4 years for the repair of our schools and to reinforce our long fight against drugs. Taking these 3 steps, now that we have eliminated the deficit, will secure realistic funding that will repair classrooms so that we can be proud of and provide the law enforcement officers and counselors we need to truly combat crime. I understand that some members of this body have introduced measures to cut the business privilege tax from 5% to 4%, some to help small businesses and others to increase health care for working people. Both of these goals are worthy of praise. But historically, about 85% of all Guam business pay a BPT of less than 5%. Moreover, lowering the BPT for the top 15% of business earners would mean removing more than $65 million in general fund revenues annually. These are revenues paid by federal contractors and other benefiting from the military buildup, which are among the wealthiest entities licensed to do business in Guam. Before you leave here tonight, contemplate this. What makes Guam a better place to live and do business? Safer schools and safer streets, or yet another tax cut for some of the nation's largest defense contractors? Senators, if you expect better schools and facilities, do not roll back BPT. If you expect a decrease in crime and less drugs on our streets, do not roll back BPT. Let's begin with the new budget you will send me in August. Along with our proposal to fund school repair and safer streets, we must acknowledge that while our procurement system is a challenge throughout the government, it can sometimes feel shattered at DOE. After the passage of President Obama's stimulus package in 2009, DOE nearly lost $36 million in federal school repair funds because it could not procure contractors quickly enough. It took 2 extensions, the threat of returning those funds to the federal government, and nearly 5 years to obligate that money. Today, our school system again finds itself in a similar situation. We have a new president, a different stimulus package, and nearly $130 million in school repair funding still waiting to be spent in DOE's pipeline. I have offered Acting Superintendent Wampa every tool and resources at my disposal so that this money is spent and not returned to the feds. And now she needs your help. She has prioritized the hiring of more procurement personnel. She is actively seeking experts to write technical specs and scopes of work, handcuffed by a pay scale that is no longer competitive. Senators, there was a time when the Organic Act and the laws of Guam would have made me clearly responsible for the state of public education in Guam. But that time no longer exists. 22 years ago, the Guam legislature charted a new course for DOE. It also sought and secured an amendment to the Organic Act of Guam, making DOE a creature of local statute, not an instrument of any governor's executive branch. From that point forward, the legislature would decide whether a school board existed or not, what its duties and limitations were, how a superintendent should be selected, and yes, the method and manner by which schools should be repaired. Let me be clear. I will take any lawful steps to improve public education in Guam, but laws only you can amend have brought us here. Madam Speaker, I urge this body to act with the clear authority only it has. Fix procurement law, raise the salaries of technical staff in bidding and spec writing so they can issue contracts and give DOE the resources it needs to truly invest in our classrooms. Madam Speaker, your predecessors believed that DOE's fate should be stewarded by the legislature. Only you can show them if they were right. But the goal of safer schools and safer streets cannot be won with greater clarity and resources alone. Our administration has executed 3 times as many drug-related arrests as my predecessors. We confiscated 104 pounds of methamphetamine last year alone. In the last 4 years, we've prevented over $30 million worth of meth from hitting our streets. According to the Guam Police Department's 2021 Uniform Crime Report, violent crime is down, as are robbery and petty theft. But despite the hope in this news, no one can deny that we just don't feel as safe as we should yet. Guam's addiction to methamphetamine causes much of our crime problem. To defeat it, we must acknowledge the expert consensus that to conquer supply, you must drastically curb demand. Meth addiction doesn't begin in trap houses and dark corners. It starts with friends you trust, in broken homes or broken hearts. By every reasonable measure, it is a crisis that demands a multi-pronged response that includes all branches of government, the administration, the legislature, and the judiciary. Methamphetamine has sapped our resources, disrupted our economy, destabilized our families, and threatened our most enduring values. It has made sons rob their mothers and abandon daughters to years of vulnerability and abuse. The resources I called for earlier are vital to rebuilding our social and mental health safety nets. And though that work has begun, there is so much more to do. We have supported efforts at the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center to expand the Lighthouse Recovery Center and onboard new addiction specialists and psychologists. We continue to focus on school-aged children, warning them about the dangers of drug use and providing help for those students who are contemplating suicide or self-harm. Later this year, students needing professional help they need through an anonymous app allowing kids to find help safely and on demand. It also why we've deployed a mobile crisis response unit for emergency calls related to mental health. Now, police officers and behavioral health professionals can respond to emergencies before they become crisis situations. Throughout government, and most especially in social services and technology, that the recruitment and retention of skilled, effective personnel is a chief obstacle to their successes. At Behavioral Health and Wellness, despite the continued effort to hire social workers, counselors, and other mental health professionals, recruitment halts simply because we can't pay them enough. Last month, the acting DOE superintendent told the Committee on Education that DOE couldn't hire the electricians, the technicians, and the skilled labor our schools needed for basic maintenance, all because the general pay plan is no longer competitive with the private sector wages in the same fields. The same occurs at DRT that looks to hire revenue agents, auditors, and support staff. At every level of the public sector, we are dealing with certain inescapable realities. First, the career professionals we relied on for years are either moving on or retiring. Second, as the public sector transitions to a new generation of employees, we must also contend with the realities of a post-COVID world. Because of this remote work revolution, a certified project manager in Talofofo can manage contract deliverables in Texas. A veteran counselor in Chalampagu can help a teen in Orange County through the trials of life on an app. And technical staff at Guam EPA can do the same at Joint Region Marianas, all for thousands of dollars more without ever leaving their homes. Work is without borders, talent is fluid, and the struggle to find and keep competent professionals is more global now than ever before. We must adapt to this new paradigm. That is why I included the cost of the new general pay plan into my fiscal year 24 executive budget request. And it is why I asked this body for separate legislation appropriating for the implementation of these pay adjustments in April. All of this is consistent with the practice established by my predecessors. All of it respects your role as appropriators. and all of it follows the statutory obligation requiring me to conduct a comprehensive wage study every 3 years. I have no more elections to win. I approve the updates to the general pay plan, because it's necessary. It is sustainable and urgent, and it is the right thing to do. I don't care whose name you put on it. Send me a clean bill that appropriates for increase in the general pay plan before April, and I will sign a 24 budget that does the same, and let's keep our government working toward a new and meaningful prosperity. As we do what we must to foster economic progress and support wage growth, we must acknowledge that building a new era of prosperity for Guam is impeded by policies well beyond our borders. Nowhere is that more apparent than in Guam's rising cost of housing. Since the publication of the draft environmental impact statement in 2009, experts have predicted our soaring housing costs. In the last decade alone, a massive shortage of skilled labor and billions of dollars in federal construction contracts have drastically increased the cost of home construction. Now, even those with a good job, great credit, and a down payment are priced out of the market. Meeting Guam's affordable housing needs has been the calling of creative developers like Carlos Camacho, Ho Hyun of Cortec. But we are going even further, thanks to the work of the late Ray Toposnia. We now know that over 4,500 vacant units are either stuck in probate or lack the basic repairs needed to make these places livable. For this reason, I ask that we each adopt the goal of seeing these houses become homes. Our approach must be continue building affordable homes led by the private sector, rehabilitate unused houses or units so they can become new homes for working families, and maximize the use of home construction opportunities funded by DoD for their do this work together.
State of the Island Address is made possible in partnership with PBS Guam. State of the Island Address is made possible in partnership with PBS Guam. State of the Island Address is made possible in partnership with PBS Guam. State of the Island Address is made possible in partnership with PBS Guam. State of the Island Address is made possible in partnership with PBS Guam. State of the Island Address is made possible in partnership with PBS Guam.
Hafa Nick Delgado, Destiny Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining us for our special coverage of the governor's State of the Island address. If you're still with us, there was a power glitch. Nope, you didn't blink. We all felt it.
Yeah.
From the north to the south, there was at least a glitch or an outage. It may have been in your area. It affected, of course, our networks and the live streams that have been happening at all platforms, including our partners over at PBS Guam. We were working to get that back up. But let's see. We're back on? All right, let's get right back to that. The speech in progress with Governor Lulian Guerrero down at the legislature.
To accept emergency cases by helicopter and meet the needs of large-scale events as they occur. Next, Eagles Field is not returned land, and it has not been so for longer than many in this hole have been alive. Even if it were, federal law does not allow returned lands to be conveyed to ancestral landowners. If and when federal lands are returned, federal law directs that they are returned to our government for public use only. Building a hospital is public use. The use of the federal land for our hospital will benefit the whole of our island and the Micronesian region. This is the Chamorro spirit of Adzuda. Compensating our ancestral landowners for land that will not be returned is the Chamorro spirit of Inafa Malik. Recognizing this reality, I met with the ancestral owners and heirs of Eagles Field. We agreed that they and other ancestral landowners must be fairly compensated for their sacrifices. Hamzu maniluhu ni matsulit I tanu mizu, usesinti ipinidisin mizu, ipitinin mizu. Lohongi sa tibayu dagi hamzu, na mo gos makat ma-accepta na tiifan manai tati ni tano mizo. Lo loqui be uspia ipenyu para infan contento za para infan satisfecho. Maila za tutuhun za maila tatsagi edzu I Land Reformed Act. Madam Speaker, I sent to you in the previous legislature a bill that would provide a long overdue method of just compensation previously denied to families whose lands the federal government seized and which remain under federal ownership or control today. That bill sat in your committee with no action taken while the term expired. This term, I ask again that the legislature hold a public hearing and move this bill forward expeditiously. Our new hospital complex will include a much-needed Veterans Health Center. Our veterans also require a local claims processing center so those who put themselves in harm's way for us can get the services they need more quickly. When I met with Dennis McDonough, President Biden's Secretary of Veterans Affairs last month in Washington, D.C., he agreed to work on setting up this center here in Guam. Guam has the nation's highest military enlistment rate per capita, and I told Secretary McDonough that our veterans deserve nothing less. We are also proudly among the top 3 places in the nation in getting our veterans employed through our Department of Labor's Jobs for Veterans State Grants Plan. And we've garnered $8.2 million to upgrade our veterans cemetery. Veterans, you gave your all for all of us. My administration is working tirelessly to honor that commitment and give you everything you need to transition back into civilian life. I have always believed that if anyone charged with a crime has the right to a lawyer, anyone who's sick should have the right to see a doctor. We have taken deliberate steps to achieve this goal. We partnered with a private insurer to operate our pilot self-insurance programs for prescription drugs, dentistry, and optometry. Before my second term is out, I believe we will build on our current success, making healthcare more affordable for our families and more accessible to our people. As I stand here tonight, I reflect on each of the last 4 years. While every generation is called to leave its marks upon the world, few are asked to defend their home in a time of maximum peril and promise to rebuild stronger and come back wiser. That is the solemn task to which we are summoned. And so, with history as our witness and prosperity for all our only reward, let us do the work of better days. God bless you, and God bless Guam.
Wow, the governor giving that lengthy speech there, 19 pages long in that address. Some tense moments there we saw, especially in the front row from the senators there, many of them not clapping. But some of the main points we want to show you in our first graphic we built here, the governor stating during her speech here today, stating despite the enduring pessimism of some public officials, our economy is recovering, tourism is rebounding, our government finances are strong, and those who predicted Guam's demise are finding out that just isn't so.
Governor Leon Guerrero also saying proposes a fundamental shift in the way the government repairs our public schools, invest in our classrooms, and keep our streets safe. She asked first to keep our business privilege tax at 5%, protect the existing appropriations to the Department of Education, Guam Police Department, and Guam Behavioral Health, and target the continued surpluses that were delivered in each of the last 4 years for the repair of our school and to reinforce our long fight against drugs.
The governor also pointing out the Guam Police Department's 2021 Uniform Crime Report, noting violent crime is down as our robbery and petty theft. But you saw in our stories, we've reported that arrests are up while crime is down. This despite the hope in this news. No way can deny that. The governor saying that we just don't feel as safe as we should yet.
As we first told you at the start of our coverage, the governor confirmed it tonight, saying, "I will sign a long-term lease with the federal government," citing the Guam Medical Campus at the old Eagles Field. "I know some of you disagree with this choice. I too want our landowners to have their lands returned." She added, "I too will support the work of our delegate in Congress to fight for the return of our lands."
And we want to thank you for joining us for the special coverage tonight of the governor's State of the Island address. Our reporters also down there at the Guam Congress building will be working to provide us with reaction from those in participation. But again, the last thing you saw there, Des, was the governor speaking to what has been a contentious, a controversial topic throughout the day and even before today. There's been a divide in our government, in our elected officials. And it was at that moment that we had that power glitch. We had to come back on and share that the governor did say, "But here are the facts. We will build your hospital, a public civilian hospital managed and operated by our people." You could see still a lot of the participants there down there at the session hall, still shaking hands, still kind of mulling about inside the session hall and just kind of taking in what the governor had delivered here tonight. She had a lot to say to the senators of the 37th Guam legislature.
That she did.
Yeah.
That she did. I did think that it was very interesting too that she did point out the fact that, you know, she did send the bill over to Speaker Therese Terlahi regarding the Eagles Field, and I believe Speaker Therese Terlahi also released a statement regarding that, and they will be revisiting that later on. I do believe that this is a lot of interesting points were brought out tonight. Definitely stuck out.
Yeah, you can see the governor there on your screen walking out, surprisingly, with Speaker Therese Terlahi by her side, the two trading jabs all day long between Adelup and the legislature. The speaker's colleagues also have been getting involved vocally, speaking out against what the speaker said, saying she has the wrong information, that there was no lease coming out there. But we saw the lease ourselves, the lease coming into our newsroom. And again, Rear Admiral Benjamin Nicholson will be speaking with us tomorrow morning. We'll have that full interview to hear his side, because the Joint Region Marianas was saying that they wanted to express what their input was when there's all this talks about what's happening outside of the gate and for the military military's plans for a missile defense in that part of the property adjacent to where the proposed hospital would be in Manila.
And Speaker Therese Terlahi on one side advocating for the return to the original landowners, Governor Leon Guerrero on the other side saying that the land is not going to be returned to them federally. It does belong, she says, to the federal government.
Yeah. One thing that I know we covered extensively has been about the repairs in the school systems. You've covered that. You've went out there and seen how the conditions of the schools have been. And that's something that the governor had laid out here as well. She laid it out in a 3-step process, saying that there is a way that she wants to move forward in trying to repair some of the schools.
Ultimately saying that the power does lie in the legislature's hands. I do believe that that was a very interesting point that she made. And I just want to go over the points that she pointed out in regard to the legislature's power. She says that the legislature has the power to decide whether a school board exists, what its duties and limitations are, how a superintendent should be selected, and she quotes, "Yes, the method and manner by which the school should be repaired."
So does it sound like she's saying then that the board is essential, is important, and they should work together?
Basically, I believe that is what she's connecting the two. So I do think that it is interesting that she's now, calling for the legislature to revisit, this topic.
Unemployment rates dropping from 7.2% to 4% in the past 12 months. This is something that was announced at the end of 2022. The governor's office, again, taking the opportunity to announce that in a press release, and we saw it sent out of the governor's office just today, reminding us that it's dropped 4%, with more than 3,000 people who have returned to work over the same period. Many of you out there are well aware of just how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected us, and many without a job, including a lot of shops closing up.
Definitely, but speaking of that, she did speak about the skilled artisans in Guam, with the Guma artisans, which is also interesting that she pointed out.
Right. Let's take it out over to the Guam Congress Hall to get some reaction. I'm Mitsuki Hirayama with, looks like, Senator Chris Barnett, who chairs the Committee on Public Education and on Public Safety. Mitsuki?
Yes, and Nick, we're here at the Guam Congress building where just moments ago, the governor just finished her State of the Island address. And joining me here is Senator Chris Barnett.
Thank you. Thanks. Good evening.
All right, so I just wanted to ask you, Senator Barnett, just about the governor just mentioned about she's pushing forward with the medical complex despite pushback from legislature and original landowners. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think this is exactly why we unanimously passed Bill 12, which is a bill that would require legislative approval for any lease the government of Guam enters into, whether it's with the federal government or the foreign government, especially in the case of this billion-dollar healthcare complex. We're in uncharted waters here, and this project is of such a great, large magnitude that I think the more eyes on this process, the more hands we get on reviewing any potential lease that is signed or is going to be signed, depending on who you ask, is really for the benefit of the people of Guam, because I think in their excitement, their eagerness, and their zeal to move forward with this project, and what I think is with reckless abandon, they could miss some things. And we've got 15 great sets of eyes down here at the legislature, and I've had a cursory look at the lease. I think there's a lot of questions in what I've seen so far. One of the questions I have is, when did we get in the business of building military hospitals? If the hospital that we're going to build is going to accommodate in-kind health care or paid health care for military dependents, what do we do in the meantime? I think that's a big question right now. GMH is falling apart. Are we just supposed to hold our breath until this new hospital is built in 5 to 10 years, depending on who you ask? And I think it's egregious. I'm also disturbed and disappointed that the governor would move so quickly to sign this lease when she knows full well it was our intent. And we had unanimous support for Bill 12, and it's sitting on her desk, probably right next to that lease. And I'm not sure which one she's going to sign first, but I definitely think that having the legislature review something as big as this it's really basic.
Right, and you just mentioned that Bill 12 is sitting on her desk, and her bill is sitting on with the speaker's desk. But what are your thoughts about her bill, where she would compensate landowners by money or by exchanging land?
Right, I think that was really interesting, and the speech overall, I think it was short on solutions. The governor, out of one side of her mouth in her speech, said that she's providing us solutions, and she wants the legislature to use excess revenues to shore up and repair our school facilities and to fill the gaps with public safety. But out of the other side of her mouth, she's also asking us to fund 22% pay raises. I know there are other raises that are afoot for government of Guam employees, and she's also asking us to fund this land bank. We don't know how much. If we're talking about fair and just compensation for original landowners, are we talking about all original landowners? Because the price tag for that, I'm not sure the people of Guam can afford.
And one argument that the governor has made previously is that federal law does not allow the federal return of land to the landowners, only to the government for public use. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, the governor had said that senators were misguiding the people of Guam, but I think she needs to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror, because the law does allow for land return. It goes to the government of Guam, and the government of Guam can then choose to return it to original landowners. And now, if you look at this case, specifically with Eagles Field, what we've been talking about the whole time, and I FOIA'd this letter when I was in your shoes as a reporter at KUAM. the Secretary of the Navy said right there in black and white that these were excess lands. And I think the issue I have is, the people of Guam, they want a governor, and they want leaders to fight for them. They don't want leaders who are going to, have these secret meetings and do these backroom deals and really obligate the people of Guam without, their consent or the consent of leaders that have been duly elected by the people. And that's the problem I have. What do we do in the meantime? The governor's sitting on, $230 million in ARP funds. Take a look around our island. Healthcare, public safety, education, the big three are suffering greatly. So I don't know what we do in the meantime. And that's, and another part of her speech, she talked about education. I'm the chair of education and public safety. And what I heard from the governor was a whole lot of pass the buck. And, if the governor is going to pass the buck to the legislature, if she says that she doesn't have the authority to help save our schools, then I would just ask that if she's going to pass the buck, then pass the bucks. Use some of the ARP money. She can dedicate ARP monies to help save our schools. I don't like this idea that she's saying she's not really responsible for the schools because, the lieutenant governor is saying this is going to take a whole of government approach. And last I checked, the administration was definitely part of our government.
Right, and as the Education Committee Chair, what do you think about the governor saying that the legislature should be stewards of the public schools, and now she's pushing for more funds for GDOE to improve the schools? Right,
and so the governor had said in her speech is, one of the things that she's asking us to do is to maintain the funding levels for GDOE and GPD. And, we're going to do our best to do that, but it's hard to juggle all of these issues and these a lot of these appropriations, especially when we're getting so many requests from the administration to fund a lot of things. But we are doing the work. If the governor's paying attention, we're in here with the education stakeholders. We're in here with GDOE. We're passing bills to help them with procurement. We're really doing our part as a body of lawmakers. And I would just ask that she do hers as well.
All right, thank you so much, Senator. That was Senator Chris Barnett from the Democratic Party. Back to you in the studio.
All right, well,
Thanks,
Mitsuki,
for that. Well,
yes.
Wait, it looks like she had Speaker Teresa Lahi there. Let's go back out to Mitsuki because I think we want to hear from her. She had a lot to say early in the morning to what happened with the hospital complex there. So.
We're back with joining me here now is Speaker Teresa Lahi. Half a day. And I also noticed that while the governor was giving her State of the Island address, most of the legislature was not clapping. And one of the things she brought up was the medical campus. And I know there's some pushback from the legislature. What are your thoughts about that as the sponsor of the Bill 12?
As you know, the legislature, we all supported the financing of the hospital and all the efforts for the hospital. The issue has been the agreement, I guess, that we just found out about as to the land that's going to be used for the hospital that precludes the original landowners from ever getting that land back. And pretty much the deal that's been made, we're not aware of it at all. So the financing that we made was, of course, to take care of our civilian population. So I think we're going to have to start from scratch to replan that. And I just... I'm sad for the landowners from this announcement tonight. And while we all want a hospital, we have lots of land. And I'm just sad that one person can make a deal on behalf of the people of Guam that's going to preclude these landowners from getting their land back, that's going to pretty much absolve anyone of any obligation to or promises that they have made to us to return land, and so I'm sad about that. I still think that the bill that we sent to the governor that requires that federal leases be vetted by the Guam legislature and the people of Guam, that should absolutely still be done. There's no reason that if it's a good deal that it shouldn't be transparent. And the legislatures have always had a role in contracts, for example, bonds for 30 years for much less amounts, like $100 million, not $1 billion or more, which we're looking at for this hospital, and not for leases of 50 or 75 years that we're also looking at for this hospital. So I think it's absolutely You know, I agree with the governor's programs going forward and her efforts. She's had an unprecedented amount of money. She's had an unprecedented amount of opportunity to really change things for future generations, their quality of life. And I'm here to work very hard to deliver those things for the people of Guam because they deserve that. But it would be sad if in working on all these projects that the legacy of the governor ends up being one of a lack of transparency and a refusal to cooperate with the legislature. And I'm going to continue, despite any name calling, or to insist that the deals for the people of Guam the facts are going to be put on the table, that they are going to be able to review and vet those, and to make sure that the obligations that we put on these future generations, that those are something that they can bear and they are sustainable. And I don't want to see any more deals made by one single person that really preclude promises that have been made to the people of Guam.
All right, thank you so much, Speaker. That was Speaker Therese Terlahi from the Democratic Party. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Mitsuki. There you have it with Senator Chris Barnett and Speaker Therese Terlahi. Now we're going to check in with our Julian Hernandez standing by with Senator Will Parkinson. Julie?
I thought it would be Japan.
What are you doing tonight?
Oh, another day in paradise, right?
Right. Well, so I've got to ask you, made a lot of promises, including in terms of, let's say, what is the one that you stick out the most to you?
I think the big standout has to be the news about the hospital. You know, I mean, that's just been such a big issue in the community right now. And look, if the vote were to try to give the land back to the owners, I would vote yes in a heartbeat. But that's not what that's just about. To think otherwise is idealism without realism. And really, the choice is it either stays with the military or it goes through us to build a hospital. And, you know, without the possibility of these owners getting their land back, this is just anti-military obstruction. And that's not the time, because the needs of the community are going to be health care and defense, especially if war with China becomes, you know, which is an ever-looming possibility, becomes real. This is not the time to stoke anti-military sentiments. You know, we're America. This is our partners. They're helping us out in this region, providing valuable services and security to us. And, you know, I think we shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth, and we should work with our partners, because they've in all my dealings with Admiral Dickelson, he's always been a straight shooter with us. And I asked him when I last saw him that, is there any possibility these landowners will get their land back? And he said it's either the hospital or they do something else with it. And so really, I got to be practical. If I had to choose between, I got to choose a hospital. We need one. It's just, what are we going to do when GMH breaks down? We got to get started, and the longer we wait, the more expensive it gets and the more prohibitive it gets. So I respect the sense of urgency the governor is moving with this, and you know, if the vote was to give the landowners their land back, I would vote for that, but that's not what's going on here.
But she also did say that they are, you know, for their sacrifice, they are going to be compensated. Right? Do you believe that, you know, that's the best way to help with the landowners in terms of what happened, you know, with their land?
Absolutely. You know, yeah, it's the ideal situation is the owners get their land back. But if we have to make the best of a bad situation, the most equitable thing I could think of is to pay them out of a land bank that we fund and try to at least, you know, it's not their land, but if we can't get their land back, if that's truly impossible, then let's find some way to make them whole in another way. And I would absolutely support making landowners whole.
And you talked about, like, you know, with this conflict that they have, it's going to further deter our relationship with the U.S. military?
You know, I would hope not, but because really this has been a great gesture of working together, because it's not just going to be our community that's going to be served, it's going to be the veterans on the island. I myself was a caretaker for my father, who was a veteran, and I could remember all the dozens of trips I'd have to take every year to Hawaii, thousands of miles, the stress on my father's body, and how helpful it would have been to have a veteran center here on Guam for the high capita of veterans serving us. I see this not just as an opportunity for a hospital, but as an opportunity to serve our veterans.
Because she did, like you said, speaking of her veteran, she did mention that what is going to be added in this new hospital is a veteran health center, correct?
That's correct, and as a father who was 100% disabled and a brother that's in the military, I would hope that we have the resources to take care of our veterans right here on island so we don't have to ship them off. And if the medical campus helps us get that in partnership with the military, it would be irresponsible of me not to pursue that, barring the return of land to the original owners.
And then also, with that being said, with you being part of the committee for the affordable, she talked about affordable housing and everything, and you being part of the committee for power and utilities. What can you say that can tie in with her promises with affordable housing and the stats?
Well, part of making housing affordable is also keeping our utilities down. And so I think when we have a new baseload generator up in a few months as Optimus Prim gets completed, I think we could see a reduction in rates. And if we really embrace the solar, I think that could have a downward pressure. No one thing is going to solve our energy crisis. An energy crisis is going to be the crisis of my lifetime. But we are going to embrace the solar technology, and hopefully as we get more integrated with solar, the battery technology catches up so that becomes much more affordable for the everyday person to have it on their own roofs.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me, Senator Parkinson. Back to you in the studio.
Well, of course, great job to our team down there getting the reaction. They're going to have much more for you, which we'll bring to you on primetime tomorrow. And of course, for the entire governor's speech, we have it right now on KUAM.com. Of course, we want to thank you for joining us for this special coverage of the governor's 2023 State of the Island Address.
That's right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Join us tomorrow.
Good night.
The KUAM Care Force and St. Baldrick's Foundation present the return of the Great Shave-a-thon on Saturday, March 18th. We'll be shaving heads to build hope, awareness, and to raise funds in the fight against childhood cancer from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Guam Premier Outlets in Tamuning. Please gather friends, family, classmates, co-workers, or even total strangers as you show your support to end childhood cancer and brave the shave with us this year. All proceeds raised will benefit the St. Baldrick's Foundation, as well as our local beneficiary, the Edward M. Calvo Cancer Foundation. Special thanks to GPO and the GCC Cosmetology Program. Join us on Saturday, March 18th from 10 to 1. Sign up to be a shavee, or just show your support in the fight against childhood cancer. For more information, visit stbaldricks.org/events/Guam. Did someone say free cake? You can win a Cold Stone Creamery ice cream cake every Friday for your birthday celebrants. Birthdays deserve to be celebrated, so let us share your celebratory shoutouts on the Cold Stone Creamery Birthday Club. Recognize friends, family, or loved ones by registering them on their special day. You can include names, photos, a birthday, and a special message to Birthday Club at KUAM.com by noon on weekends and noon on Friday for weekend birthday shoutouts. Watch your dedications weekdays on the Cold Stone Creamery Birthday Club on KUAM News Primetime and the social media channels of KUAM Communications. The Birthday Club is presented by KUAM Communications and Cold Stone Creamery.
Local Music Mashup. For the first 3 Thursdays of every month, sit back, relax, and vibe out as we showcase Guam's local talent through their video submissions. Tune in for Local Music Mashup on KUAM TV8 at 6:30 p.m. and TV11 at 7:30 p.m. Or catch it on KUAM digital platforms. You're not going to want to miss this.
Local Music Mashup is brought to you by Burger King. You rule. The